I have no idea if people will comment in the live stream or on the YouTube or at all.
YouTube is live. I have to click some other things so that people actually know where the link is.
That's probably useful. I'll open up the stream in case anybody says something.
I see that one person watching now. I don't know if that is me.
That's me.
That's you.
I suspect.
The system works.
Yes. Well, it's somewhat self-congratulatory, but yes, we have a viewer. I'm sure the others will come soon.
Whatever.
Well, I just got a push notification from Discord, so something's working.
Interesting. Oh, okay. Wait. Well, I'm trying to figure out what happened. Sorry, people. Everything is new. We switched back to Discord, and that some stuff automates, and I'm unclear which stuff I've triggered and which stuff things that I've done has triggered, etc.
I got a push notification from my Discord app saying the event has started.
Gotcha. Yes,
and I can see Kate has hearted your post. So
yeah, so hopefully everything's working great.
Yeah.
All right. It has been a while. Welcome back to Tony Builds Legos with frequent guest James Thompson. Really
At some point I get to be a co-host. I don't know.
Unofficial co-host James Thompson. You know, we have the contractual stuff is not. Your lawyers have not replied to my lawyers.
It feels
really
like something you can kind of string me along with the promise of a co-hosting position, and you know, I'm really just the intern.
If you have not hung out with us before, this is our really chill Tony and James chat about what they're up to while Tony continues to build a very giant Lego set. I have been slowly working my way through Lion Knight's castle, which is a huge, complicated Lego castle that I received as a gift. You can maybe just barely see. I've got the first half of it up here behind my head on one screen. And then I'm working very slowly on the second half down here. I do about 2 bags a session, which it means it's going to take me forever to finish it. But look at this. I've got a basement in place. I got my instructions here. I'm on the second giant graphic novel size set of instructions. And the first thing it's going to do is have me build, you know, a man in blue with a staff and a pointy hat, who I feel like I don't think it's unfair to make I'm going to call him a wizard. I mean, it seems reasonable, right, James?
Yeah, I mean, like, certainly he's some form of magic user.
Yeah, you're right. I guess he could be a warlock or a cleric or something, but yeah. Oh, he's got a backpack and a beard that have to fit on his little Lego neck bit.
Backpack. I don't see wizards wearing backpacks.
That does not feel like. I mean,
I think wizards would have somebody else carrying their stuff for them, or some kind of like magical portal thing containing all this stuff. But a backpack,
bag of holding is the D&D classic. There
is there a backpack of holding?
I think a bag of holding can be any. I think you can have a variety of physical properties for a bag of holding is how I would define that. So I think your bag of holding could be one that you put on your back, is my dungeon master ruling. This wizard fellow, it's interesting because he has a beard piece that's going to fit on, but he also has on the Lego minifig head kind of like white stubble that's gonna go around the beard, I guess.
I guess it's to make it fit aesthetically.
Yeah, I just, I feel like in the olden days it would have just been yeah. All right, so let me make sure I get this right. It's backpack then beard.
always in that order.
Yeah. So and I like his little backpack. I have not seen this Lego backpack before. It has a decent little It's not. It's open, and it looks like it could contain at least one object, if not,
I
or a variety of small objects. So
I got one of those backpacks with one of the Star Wars advent calendars, and it was Yoda. I think Yoda dressed
did
as
Yoda fit it?
Santa.
Oh,
No,
okay. Oh,
it
Yoda
was
had the backpack.
yes.
I was thinking of Luke carrying him in the backpack.
No, that I
You
think
know,
Yoda had progressed to their own backpack,
Hmm.
possibly with I could jam a Grogu figure into that now.
I don't think I have any sets with a Grogu. I think I got one set with the Mandalorian, but I don't think I've gotten any sets with the Grogu. All right, I'm just looking for the last tiny little piece that's gonna build this wizard staff. Oh, it's so tiny. My little field of this is the thing where Lego does start to feel like a vision test that I am failing.
Well, as you
So
get older,
yeah, everything gets great.
well, everything becomes a test, really.
Mm.
It is officially t-shirt weather here.
Oh,
It was, if I get this correct, it was 72 Fahrenheit, which was surprising. And I went outside not in a t-shirt but in a jumper, and I was too warm.
jumper.
So,
It is a little
sweater.
bit warmer than that here. This is our Tony and James live on different continents check-in part of the episode. It is today, it is 79 degrees, but it's pretty nice out. It's very low humidity here in the greater Boston area. But I will say I live in kind of a third floor attic apartment type situation, and so it is warmer in here than it is out, and it's a little warm in here. I cannot figure out what piece is supposed to go here that this little gem is going to fit into, and I'm about ready to give up until I have more pieces at play, just so there's less stuff to sift through here because I'm looking for like the tiniest piece ever. Oh, I think I got it. Okay, wizard with this little magic staff. All right, time to move on to the actual construction bits of this castle. It looks like I am building maybe like the second story that's going to sit on top of this basement. Yeah.
So did you run your adventure for
I did. So yesterday I ran an adventure for the relay. It is the Cortex / upgrade members special. So I ran an adventure for Jason Snell, Mike Hurley, and CGP Gray. And this was an adventure that I had been working on for quite a while in the last couple of weeks, which is part of why there was no Lego stream for a while, as I was working on this adventure. If you haven't heard one of these adventures before, I've done a couple of them now for that group. And obviously I do, well, maybe not obviously, but I do a lot of adventures over at Total Party Kill, the Incomparables D&D, well, D&D and other RPG podcast. But this was specifically the request from this group was they didn't want D&D. They wanted something potentially more science fiction-y, or at least that was kind of where we arrived through brainstorming, because one of the original requests, which was somewhat interesting, was the idea that they would play as versions of themselves. So I started out with a very old, out of print science fiction themed RPG setting that I customized and modified, and then wrote my own adventures for, which is also new to me. Most of the adventures I run for Total Party Kill and for non-Total Party Kill D&D adjacent things are things I run out of books. That is, I know that's like a thing that's like, I don't know, controversial. Some people in the D&D role-playing game space kind of look down on that, because to them they're all about doing homebrew stuff and running their own games and running their own stories, and that has just not ever been a huge appeal to me. I think I'm not a writer. I'm just always more comfortable taking something that exists and revising it. And sometimes I revise stuff heavily. Sometimes when I'm going to run something new, I read lots of reviews of it, and people tell me what I see, what people do and don't like on the internet. And if there's a section where it's like, man, this part's not great, it's like, well, then I'm going to throw that part out and replace it with something else, and often that's a thing that's of my own creation. But the relay one is always just it's a kind of a design challenge slash a little intimidating because it is an adventure entirely of my own creation. If you've listened to the previous ones, this one I would say, I think it's not unfair to say, is the most ambitious one I've run yet. It was relatively complicated, and I beta tested it aggressively in the lead up to it. Because you want to make sure that, for the format of a podcast, like, is this completable in one session? Is that session an appropriate length? Will it be fun to listen to? You don't want people to get stalled out and get frustrated. You want people to have fun. And for the purposes of podcast RPGs, I ran the adventure 3 times for non-podcast people before running it for the relay hosts, because I wanted it to I wanted it to work. And that's part of what you get when you buy and run an adventure out of a book, hopefully, is that it is something that has been play tested a bunch, and they it's going to fit together, and they've ironed out stuff that's confusing. And the exciting things about role-playing games is that, like, the players are never going to do 100% what you expect.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
yeah,
surely there's a certain amount of you have to improvise.
There will always be, and that's the fun, right?
Yeah.
But what you don't want is, like, well, that you don't want from running, I ran the same adventure 4 times in 1 week, and there were some things that every group did the same, and there were some things that, like, no group approached the same situation the same. So it's like, you want some control, or at least I do. I mean, I think there are some people out there who are prepared to improvise everything, and that's fine, but I want a little bit of comfort in, like, framework of, like, okay, this is how this is going to work. And it's how players react to structure is interesting, right? There are some players who get frustrated when something feels like super open-ended, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do here? And the answer is, like, well, you can do whatever you want. There's no supposed to do. But there's players who, I mean, I think it's they're used to, like, well, there's being some kind of, this is the implied what I should do. And when there's not, like, I don't know what to do. Some people get lost, right? And they don't like that. And then there's other players who it's like, well, that looks like what I'm supposed to do, and I am not doing that, jerks. James, I don't know, is that possibly a little bit what you are?
I don't know. I like to think that I may bring a certain chaotic element.
You definitely bring a certain chaotic element, which is part of the joy, and I think that's part of the exciting part about D&D and other games like that.
I don't think I bring a negative chaotic element.
No, well, and it's all it's all relative.
Yeah,
I always think I'm. You have been a major chaos element in some of our most chaotic adventures. The most chaotic adventures I think of are the Gribbets adventure, which is was released
surprisingly being released.
Yeah, was released as a members only special several years ago, and is actually being released right now on Total Party Kill if you go to that feed. Heavily edited, I don't know, edited at least, whereas before it was not edited. So the Gribbets adventure, which is some people might be familiar with the podcast Dragon Friends. Dragon Friends is a podcast where Australian improv comics play D&D with each other, and it's very funny. They are sometimes, I would say it is almost more of a, I think they define themselves as not an actual play podcast, and that it's it's more D&D as a framework for doing improv comedy, but there's storytelling and continuity and stuff in it, and it's very good. But they published one of their adventures, and so I ran that adventure for some of the TPK crew, including James, and they they really tested the limits of a game system, of ethics, of morality, a variety of things.
Because it was 2 years ago, I have forgotten
That's probably
almost everything.
that is your brain protecting you, James, is what that is.
But nobody has like I've not heard any feedback in the
No, that is
sense
true.
of
No one has written to us and would like, how dare you?
like you are
Yeah,
terrible people.
yeah, I'm reporting you to somebody.
Yes.
That's true. So I guess we have that going for us.
So I guess yeah, it's like keep going is what the internet is saying.
Is that what they're saying?
I think so.
The people who designed the set love frogs, and there's another little frog here, a little brown frog. I don't totally know. I thought this was going to be like the second floor for something, but based on the amount of green and blue on the base here, maybe it's just going to build off the side of my little castle basement here, or maybe it's the back of it or something like that, because it's got more nature elements to it there. So
I know the nature of the brown frog.
Oh, so and then the other one that's I think has some chaos elements of it, if that's not unfair to say, is the Murder on the Eberron Express, which is a lovely adventure. I highly recommend people check it out. It's something that they might want to run, whether you want to listen to it or us play it or not. But it is a murder mystery adventure set on a steampunk train because it's D&D. And yeah, that was very fun to run. And then our version of it has a chaotic ending. So
I like the
your
fact
version,
that
if you run it at home, you may or may not have that level of chaos depending on who you choose to let in.
I like that one because it was 3/4 Agatha Christie
Yes.
trying to do detective work, and then 1/4 not that.
I mean, I think it was intended to be all that, and then but you all were like, well, that's enough of that. Let's bring on the chaos. So yeah.
Yeah, we have some. No, it's a week, not a week, a month until we play some more.
Yes, I am running Total Party Kill Curse of Strahd on Tuesday, and then a week from Tuesday we will be back playing the Stygian Gambit, which is one of the keys from the Golden Heist adventure. We've played several of these now that are great, but yeah, you're not back for a little while because our Tuesday night sessions are not UK time zone compatible. Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
but,
I mean, like every now and again when I see the sort of call for players, I think, I mean, I could do that.
You could, but would you want to? James, there are lots of things you could do, but should you?
This is the eternal dilemma.
The eternal dilemma, yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. In the last 3 weeks, I've been to the cinema again.
What have you seen at the cinema?
Okay, I saw Guardians 3 opening day.
Wow.
Which was a Wednesday here.
No spoilers, but thumbs up, thumbs down from James. What do you
I would say overall thumbs up.
Okay.
If you have problems with animal cruelty, maybe not.
Okay, I know that it's a Rocket focused story, so I assume that Rocket the Raccoon has a tragic story full of trauma because he's a comic book character.
I mean, it's basically there's flashbacks. And the flashback sequences are not as lighthearted as the rest of the movie.
Well, I will definitely see it at some point. I don't know if I will get out to see it in theaters. Dan Morin and I was talking about possibly seeing it, who's my local incomparable buddy who likes to see movies. So
I think
I've been to the theater in quite a while.
Yeah, this is my second movie visit in 3 years. So but this is part of my we need to work out how to deal with being with people, because at least some of us are I'm getting on a plane full of people.
Are you going because you're going to WWDC in
No.
Oh, sorry.
That used to be the destination of choice, when it was a week-long conference and stuff. But for what is basically a day of events, it's not it's not worth the international trip.
Got it.
And there's with WWDC, when it was properly a week, there was like lots of other mini conferences and things sprung up
people
around
had
it.
kind of things attached to it unofficially.
Yeah. So no, I think like the press and the pundits are going out. Is there a difference between press and pundits? I'm not sure.
Maybe not.
So
maybe pundits is a subset of press.
Yeah, I guess pundit feels somewhat derogatory as a term. But anyway, the many of the people who you just ran an adventure for, and they'll all be meeting up and having fun, and I'll be sitting at home
Glasgow,
being sad. But no, I'm referring to the July event, but it just means that we've been doing.
You gotta ease yourself into what is humanity. Why is humanity? How is humanity?
And when is humanity?
All good questions.
But so did the cinema, did a few things. The weather's starting to get nicer, which is good.
Remind me, what was the first film that you saw in cinema? Was it
it was the D&D movie.
D&D. Well, yep. I believe at least in the US, that will be available on I think you can pay to stream it right now, but I believe it will be on our Paramount Plus, Paramount whatever service that the app I only open for Star Trek in like a week or two. So
we get Paramount Plus here as well now, and I bought a year of it in some sale, so I have it for the foreseeable.
Have you watched anything that is not Star Trek on it?
No.
Okay, just checking.
but I will also say that the Star Trek, at least with Picard, we get it on the Paramount Plus app a day after you get it on your app.
Why?
which is like, you making the thing. I suspect it's because they have a deal with Amazon. Because it's also shown on Amazon here.
Yeah, it just.
But it's like, the whole point of me subscribing to this stuff is I want the thing on the day. Otherwise, it might accidentally fall off a truck. Because I want to watch the thing and be part of the conversation.
Yes, I did. I watched all of Picard, and I did watch it. I'm not sure exactly when it became available on the app, but basically I would watch it with dinner every evening as soon as it was available. I imagine that I was probably 12 hours or maybe 16 hours late to getting it. But that was kind of a thing where people were pretty aggressive with like talking about stuff, posting images of it. I'm not going to spoil it for anything for anyone because I very much enjoyed Star Trek Picard, and I if you have not seen it yet, that's fine. Do live your life, you'll be okay. But people, it's like, people do not care anymore about spoiler etiquette. It's like, so this has been out for 12 hours. Here's a GIF of the big reveal.
And that is annoying when you can't officially.
When it's like you legitimately can't watch it.
I think Prodigy was day and date with the US, so I'm hoping that it was just a one-off with Picard, because I think Strange New Worlds is not far off.
No, it's June, so this is not far away. I am definitely looking forward to that. But it was I did have the with Picard and Mandalorian overlapping for a good number of weeks in a row. It was like, oh, I've got my my weeks all figured out, and then that ended, and it's like, now I have to figure out new things to watch. New things. I'm bad at change.
Well, I can give you some recommendations for shows, things that we have been watching.
Tell me about things you've been watching.
So Mrs. Davis.
I have heard references to that. I have no idea. And I think I know that the guy who did Lost is involved in it.
Yeah, so it's the guy who did
concludes what I know about it.
It's the guy who did Lost and did the recent Watchmen show,
which is fantastic.
And Damien Lindelof. Anyway, basic pitch is a nun is trying to destroy a super intelligent AI.
All right, well, you've piqued my interest. Why don't they just put that on the billboards?
Yeah, and that is like the most sane and down to earth description I could give you of the show, because it is a lot sillier than that. It deals with a lot of like kind of things about religion and worship, but it is weird. And like I can't really describe anything without spoiling things. Sure. But it is good. It is definitely worth watching, and that is on Peacock,
I believe. I think yes. Is another one of these. Literally just signed up for Peacock yesterday because my first show that I was like, oh, I'm done with The Mandalorian and I'm done with Picard. I need a new show. Is that I was way behind in the zeitgeist with Poker Face. And yes. I had seen the first episode of that, which was available without paying for anything. And I was like, well, I'll come back to this someday. And that day was yesterday. So, so yeah, well, so I've just signed up for that service. So this is perfect for me in that that's Mrs. Davis I can watch that next. So, and I'm always looking for good. I mean, I feel like good science fiction is a precious, rare commodity in our television landscape.
The other thing that just started this week is Silo, which is on Apple TV Plus, which is, I think it's the book series is called Wool. But it's a whole bunch of people in mostly underground silo while the world has gone apocalyptic outside, and they have been in there for generations. And maybe things aren't what they seem, or maybe they are. And the silo has like one rule, which is if you ask to get put outside, you get put outside.
Oh.
So you don't say that unless you really want to go outside. And going outside doesn't seem to be a good choice.
Not a great choice. Yeah.
But the people who do go outside or are asked to go outside,
yes.
One of the things that they ask is for their final act, basically, could they clean the crap off the camera that people look outside with. And some people choose to clean and some people do not. But it's interesting. It has kind of, I don't know, shades of the Fallout.
I was going to ask if you're familiar with the Fallout games, which I believe there's also there's a Fallout TV show coming.
Yes, and I think, I mean, this is a lot more
mystery drama kind of thing.
Well, mystery drama played straight. There's a murder that needs solved and things, but whereas Fallout, I suspect, will be somewhat sillier. But yeah,
the tone of a Fallout show is going to be interesting to me because it's, Fallout is both. So Fallout is a series of games that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where I think with a kind of a 1950s kind of bent to it, where I think the idea is that the world, or that there was a giant nuclear, I apologize that people who know the Fallout lore for sure are going to be annoyed at me, but I believe there's been some kind of major devastation circa the 1950s, and then people have been in these silos, or as they're called in Fallout, vaults, and then they emerge from that, and there are some civilizations that exist post-apocalypse, but they're kind of some of them are less functional than others, and there's cannibals and there's weird mutated mutants, and there's a lot of wasteland. But one of the things in the Fallout world is that you frequently come across other vaults that have hung around, and and so some of them kind of feel like dungeon crawls from other video games, but there's kind of a frequent thing where it's like a classic thing is that there will be a vault that is kind of haunted, or there's a vault that you're exploring and you find like logs from basically what was the deal with this vault, and there were a lot of vaults out there that were basically run as weird social experiments.
And so I don't know what the setup is on this, but it seems an interesting show.
And so that's on Apple, and so that must be a thing where they're only releasing one episode at a time.
Yeah, they dropped 2 on the first week, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so one at a time, and as is the Mrs. Davis, but that's like 6 episodes in so far.
Got it.
So those are the kind of the 2 big things
Those are the
that
things
spring
you're
to mind.
most
Also
into,
watched the first episode of Citadel, which is the
that I heard not positive things about.
No, I can't.
That's Amazon's incredibly expensive Russo brothers. Is it a spy thing or is it a cyber?
It's entirely a spy thing, and
but it's intended to be a giant, like, genre spanning media. It's not a TV show. It is a media product that happens to take the format of a TV show, and there will be maybe other things in this world.
I mean, it seems like, I think there was somebody said it was like 50 million an episode, which is not on screen. And it's Priyanka Chopra, who I know from Bollywood movies, but
who I know from going to high school. No, I don't. Priyanka Chopra went to high school with me, but I did not know her.
Well, that's still, I mean, okay, that the only person I can recently, if you've watched any of this season of
Taskmaster, yep.
Frankie Boyle was apparently in my year at school, but
you told me before that you had figured out that you went to school with him, but you've now figured out he was specifically in your year.
I think the timing, because he's like 4 or 5 months older than me, even though I'm of course look much younger, but
you do look much younger. I think you were being sarcastic there, but he has a little bit of I think he has some mileage on him, James. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't have the mileage.
So. Yeah, I don't know if he's been like a hard drinking, perhaps narcotic involved comedian, but he looks like he's got some road miles on him.
But
yeah,
and also I'm trying to think the name of the other guy, because there's been a number of people who have come through my school, but no Priyanka Chopra, so Priyanka Chopra Jonas, as I believe she is now.
Yes.
And the other guy is also, he's Scottish, putting on an American accent.
Right? Oh.
No, I mean the guy in the show.
Gotcha.
It's one of the Starks from Game of Thrones, and I can't remember which one. It is not good at all. We're currently, like the major sort of plot, oh no, what a surprise thing has been amnesia, that somewhat overused spy. Anyway, yeah, watched an episode of that earlier today. Don't recommend it.
Got it. All right. Well, then I am not putting that on my list. I got enough stuff on my list.
Yes, I only have time to watch things that cost more than 50 million per episode.
Very very fancy. Oh gosh, what I used to.
Yeah, the Mrs. Davis is weird. The tone. Did you ever watch any of Preacher?
Yes, I did watch. I watched all of Preacher. That is a very weird show. Which, did I enjoy Preacher? I don't know. I experienced all of Preacher.
I would say that this has more tonally to do with Preacher than I expected.
That is interesting, especially given the religious content.
Yeah, there is definitely an overlap there, and stuff happens which is, shall we say, supernatural in nature, or is it? And but there is a lot more. Some of the violence in the show, which I was not expecting, did remind me also of Preacher.
Have you read the Preacher comics or just the show?
I just watched the show. Okay. I don't know. I think there was quite a bit of departure from the.
Yes, I've read the comics, but that would have been a long time ago. I think the comics were like a 90s believe they're Vertigo. This is where if I can't read Wikipedia and build Legos at the same time. But it has that. I'm just gonna say it was 90s Vertigo because it has a 90s Vertigo aesthetic to it at the very least. And for people not familiar with the show or the comic, the basic premise of Preacher is that like God has gone kind of on walkabout. Uh, uh, Other weird celestial things are happening. Like I believe an angel and a devil are having a child, so that's a problem. The word of God, which is like a powerful superpower, is kind of loose in the world, and the titular preacher gets mixed up in it. Also, he's friends with an Irish vampire. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So
the comic run was 95 to 2000, so you
yeah,
were
it
spot on there.
it has a very kind of Vertigo. There's a specific aesthetic to that era of Vertigo, where and so they did that, and then I believe was it Seth Rogen who was like a fan of that comic, helped get it made as a show. I don't know what 15 years later. It's extremely violent. A lot of kind of Sam Raimi-esque gore, where over the top gore that's kind of more comic than I think and horror elements of it. It's also, I don't know, I think the parts where I started, it's, you know, it doesn't have that kind of 90s irony to it. I think just because it's not a product of that time, which is feels like it lands a little weird. There's also parts in it where it's I don't know. I don't know if this is the right word, but for lack of a better word, kind of gleefully blasphemous in a way that, like, I guess I probably found amusing as like a teen or a college student, but as a grown up, I'm just like, oh, okay, that doesn't do much for me. So
I
yeah.
enjoyed Preacher, possibly because I was raised a Catholic. But The Boys, which is by the same, it's based on comics by the same writer, Garth Ennis. That was on the other side of, because The Boys is basically instead of making fun of religion, it's making fun of superheroes, the modern religion. And I did not enjoy. I watched all of it, or I've watched all of it so far, but it was more of the like, let's see how far we can push this, as if we were 14-year-old boys making.
It's possible that I just don't like Garth Ennis's work. I mean, I think I mean, obviously he's been very successful and people love his work and it's heavily adapted, so that's fine. It may just not be for me. But yeah, I have both read The Boys and watched The Boys, and my description of The Boys is like, Watchmen is like, if superheroes were real, they'd be fascists. And The Boys is like, if superheroes were real, they'd be sex perverts. And it's like, that's just, like, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with your premise. I'm just not sure if I'm interested in exploring that. Good, enjoy, have fun with that. But I'll be over here doing something else. So yeah.
But I would say Mrs. Davis is not it's not at that level of trying to push the boundaries, but occasionally something very squishy will happen. But that's my kind of top recommendation for the last few weeks of watching
well
stuff.
Especially, I should check that out, especially I think I'll put that toward the top of the list, especially, I mean, the Watchmen show was excellent, so
yeah.
And I've got Peacock right now, so why not?
Treat yourself.
I feel like I have not been watching a ton of new things. I do keep current with Taskmaster, often thanks to you. Was determined to watch Picard and Mandalorian as soon as they aired to avoid spoilers in our challenging world. And covered Mandalorian every week with Dan and Kat on the Complicated Profession podcast. Let's see, Taskmaster, those things. Those are about it. I am looking forward to the Dungeons and Dragons movie comes out on streaming soon, so I'll watch that as soon as it's available. Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out, or Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania is on streaming, I think, right around the same time. So
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
available on pay to stream.
yeah, fancy, expensive, uh, paid to stream world. That's I live a more modest life. So
Well, I have seen it. Um, uh, I'm sure all the effects that Todd did were great.
mhm.
Is what I will say.
That's the nicest thing you can say about it.
Pretty much.
As I hope people were paid for this. I hope people were compensated fairly for this work.
I mean, there are people, there are actors in it that I was surprised to see. Chidi from The Good Place.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And the Imperial spy lady from Mandalorian, the triple agent
Mm-hmm.
woman.
Yes, Kane, something Kane.
Yes,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, that it's not brilliant, but I definitely would not recommend paying the
Got it.
streaming money for that.
So Guardians of the Galaxy, several notches ahead of that in your brain.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I paid to see that in the cinema, so maybe I'm kind of like
Mhm.
the act of spending cinema money means I am convincing myself that I liked it.
That's a stark consumer loyalty there. So I paid for this, so it must be good.
Because otherwise I would be an idiot.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, you wouldn't want it. That would only a fool would not enjoy this at this stage, given how much I paid for it.
It's a sort of sunk cost cinema
Mm,
fallacy.
yeah, that's dangerous.
Um, but yeah, that's, we're sort of I have spent like the last week, 2 weeks, whatever, playing Jedi Survivor,
Oh yeah,
which
I've heard generally positive things about that so far.
yeah, no, I've enjoyed it, and it's kind of feels a bit more open worldy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's things that feel a bit like um the shrines from Breath of the Wild dotted
Mm-hmm.
around, not as many. Um, and
And remind me, which system are you playing that on?
that's PS5.
PS5, got it.
I think PS5 is apparently the preferred platform because the
Mm,
PC port is very
I've heard
bad
not.
indeed.
Yeah, I've heard challenging things about the PC port.
But I think PS5 and I am assuming Xbox are reasonable, but it's not on anything else at this point. It looks pretty, and you can. There's a lot of sort of climbing and jumping and running along
Mhm.
walls, much like the first one.
Much like the first one. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. I am snapping on my my little cave here to the
Ah.
previously built basement cave part, and it does seem like it is a continuation of the landscape slash also because it's folding, it'll close in on that. So that's cool. I hope to play it at some point. I don't have a system that will play it currently.
You
Um,
should steal Dan's because
Dan's using his PlayStation all the time, I think.
I think
So
he's managing like whatever he seems to be playing half an hour
oh
every now and
yeah,
again when a baby is not
yeah,
doing baby things.
yeah.
So I feel that
I should
you have the
just
greater claim.
go into his house and take things. That's how the law works.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I will. I have not thought far enough ahead of what system I would get, but I would at some point I would plan to upgrade to a modern game system because my there's just I have my what do I have? I have the Xbox One. Um and I still have, a good number of games that I need to finish for that. So that I always feel like, can I pay for a new thing when I don't when I haven't finished all the games on that? And the number of games is means right now means no. But it's definitely kind of it's on my short list of when I get a new job, think about upgrading kind of deal. But I have not even thought far enough ahead of like, would I get a PlayStation 5 or would I get an Xbox One? I think, yeah, I don't know. Part of me is like, oh, just get the Xbox One X, and that's like kind of, that's kind of like an upgrade, so that's easy enough. Whereas the other part of me is like, oh, but there are PlayStation exclusives that I would enjoy playing, so I should do that. So I'm stuck.
I
Um, yeah.
I have both.
You have both. Oh, yes. Thank you for cutting the baby in half there, James. Buy both. Why not?
We're not cutting Dan's baby in half.
Mm-hmm.
I have both, but the Xbox, I like the PlayStation more, but the Xbox has the Game Pass stuff, which generally
is most of what I have. Like, it is having that as a library of stuff to check out is it like will keep you busy for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean like there is so much stuff on that. And a lot of it is certainly moving towards being like best on the newer systems. Although they just released Redfall, which is the new game by the people who did Prey, which is one of my favorite games of all time, and apparently Redfall is terrible.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I saw things that were like people are not happy with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't even read past like what aspect of it are they not happy with, but they're nerds are unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, shock.
Yeah,
but I don't know if this was something that they were asked to do. If you like, because Microsoft bought just about every games studio going, and I've liked all their previous games. The Deathloop was another one that they did.
Is this the same group that did Dishonored?
Yes, I want to
Dishonored
say
I'm
not 100% sure it's the exact same studio within
so it's studio versus people.
Well, I mean, it's the same company, but they have them dotted around the world, and I think
Dishonored is one of my my favorite. I don't know. It's possibly favorite games, but maybe even from that generation of games. James, I'm just flipping back and forth. I am done with bag 16. I have the requisite little pieces left over, but then I have one 3x1 gray, and it's like they don't usually give you an extra like that, so it's like, what did I miss? Like flipping back and forth through the instructions, being like, somewhere there is a piece missing from this, but there doesn't seem to be any structural issues, so I don't know what's going on.
I mean,
yeah,
is it on that far left bit?
If it goes
like
here,
there.
Let me try to figure out from my rules, or I don't even think so. Nope, because that was literally not part of what I was building, because that was part of the earlier.
Oh, that was okay. Well, I'm looking at the wrong time.
I think I'm gonna do the risky thing, which is like, I'm just gonna go forward. We'll see if that becomes an issue later, but I'll keep my little pieces over here for later. And oh, I just dropped something tiny on the floor. That won't be a problem. And I'm gonna open pack 17.
So Redfall was done by Arcane Studios Austin, who did do Dishonored 2, Prey, Deathloop.
Deathloop is one of those. It's only available for next gen games that I would like to play, but
I enjoyed that a lot. It's not quite Dishonored, but it has a lot of similarity to it.
Dishonored is this kind of steampunk, old timey, medieval, kind of a blend of medieval Victorian thing, and you're like, you're not technically an assassin. You're like the queen's bodyguard, but you then basically you get framed for something, and you're on the run, and you have to become an assassin. And it's just this amazing kind of world that they build, and it's a great game. I'm a big fan.
I wish to issue a correction. When the Wikipedia page I was looking at was for Arcane Studios generally. So Arcane Austin did Redfall and Prey. And Dishonored, I think, was when they were just the one studio, or just had the one thing. And Deathloop was Arcane in Lyon. But yeah, I mean, I could be playing Redfall right now because I have Game Pass, but I have not even downloaded it because
the reviews are not great.
That was one of the things with the with Jedi Survivor is I buy discs because I'm an old person. But also they tend to be slightly cheaper, like generally about 10% cheaper.
That's
and you can give them to other people.
Yeah.
But I put it in and I installed the game off the disk, and it let me play like the opening thing, and then said, if you want to get any further, you need to download the latest version. Like basically they shipped the opening area on the disk and everything else wasn't finished. So yeah, and that involved downloading 150 gigabytes.
Oh yeah, just just crank that out.
Which was 4 hours or so.
I mean, James, maybe you should learn from this. I think there's some dice by p-calc lessons here, where you let people do some math, but not all the math before they have to download 100 gigabyte update.
None of my apps are quite that big as yet, but yes.
Well, but they could be, James.
I coincidentally, we are getting fiber to the building installed, so gigabit fiber on Friday, and we had the company that does the sort of low level infrastructure is different from the companies that actually do the selling you the stuff. So OpenReach are the people who do the installation, and they came round some time ago and they put a box on the wall and like connected bits of fiber optic cable to it, presumably. And we then waited to be told when we could have our gigabit fiber,
when you can have your actual internet.
And that didn't happen, and we started getting offers from other companies saying, hey, you can now get gigabit fiber, and still go onto the BT website, and it's like, nope, not available yet for you. And eventually my wife phoned them up, and it turned out that there was a typo in the address record, or at least our address record was so old the format didn't exactly match, so that we weren't flagged as having the ability to get fiber because the address was wrong
in your building.
Yes. But they're coming on Friday. However, because they changed the record to change, I will not say what my address is, but they changed like the one alphanumeric that was wrong, and because of that we have moved. And I'm just concerned that what is going to happen is that they are going to switch off the internet at our old place,
and then you'll have no internet.
And then I'll have no internet.
That does seem like a possible thing that could happen.
Yes. Certainly it does not inspire confidence, but we will see. I may have super fast internet, or I may have no internet. It's one or the other.
I had the thing this was my travails back in January, where for forever I was limited in what internet we could have installed in our apartment by basically what the landlord had set up a million years ago. And then the landlord's parents moved out, and he wanted to change how stuff was done, which was good, because I had waited years for that. But we had the travails of calling up an ISP, and they sent out someone who's probably a subcontractor, and he came out and he was like, oh, you're up on the third floor. Well, we don't do that. And it's like, all right. And then basically I waited like 2 weeks and called again and tried again. And the guy who came the next time was like, yeah, we'll get this sorted out. And so it was like, okay. I mean, it felt like, doing the same thing twice and expecting different results shouldn't work. And yet that was how it worked. That was the solution to the problem, was try again with a different guy who was much more like, oh yeah, I mean, this is going to be a little bit more of a pain than usual, but like, this is what I do. I set up internet, so I'm not going to be thwarted. I'm running back up and down from an attic to a basement, figuring out where cables can go. So
the one nice thing about this is that it's going to be, like more than 10 times as fast, but for the same price. which
when does that happen?
I know. I'm waiting for the catch.
Yeah, the catch is, it sets your house on fire.
I would like to think that if it's fiber optics can't do that, although they are shooting lasers into your house.
Yeah, I mean, literally, there's probably won't though. It seems very unlikely. I would put that out of your mind.
But yeah, so maybe I'll be able to do another one of these in the coming weeks, but maybe I will have no internet ever again. Those are
the only options, right?
Well, they are going to be the only options because they're going to remove the actual copper wiring coming into this apartment. So if the fiber doesn't work, nothing else will. Because
maybe you could ask what order they do those in.
I will trust in the competence of the installing person. Yeah, much as I trusted them to tell me when I could get the thing in the first place. But if you're watching this, BT OpenReach engineer,
I think they like to watch people's Lego streams before they come over and install stuff. That's just part of the service.
Well, they need to know get to know the people.
Yeah, relationships are what's important, James, and installations.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's been kind of like we somehow we're in May.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know where that happened.
Do you have a ton of stuff you're gonna have to do for things that'll get announced at WWDC, or
I will
part
not.
Of it is you don't know until it.
I don't know until then. It may surprise you to learn that Apple does not take me into their confidence and tell me what their upcoming secret plans are.
But usually stuff happens that requires you to do major updates of all your apps.
Yeah, and there seemed to be some discussion along the lines that Apple's focus this year has been on their WYSI 3D headset thing, and maybe they haven't been doing quite as much to the other platforms. So
say iOS or things like that.
Yeah. So it could be that I don't have as much to do.
Okay, that'd be good, because I know it's always a little. It feels like it's a little frantic, especially for small indie people, where it's like, this is your job is now to react to us.
Yes, $3 trillion company and small 1 or 2 people developers. Yes, it can be stressful, but a lot of that stress is also of my own design, where I'm like, I must have everything ready for the day one, and I must do all the things. And this year I'm still like working out what I can and can't do, and I don't particularly want to burn out what remains of my eyes.
I would recommend not doing that. I think you want at least some, partial credit for your eyes.
Yes. So, I mean, like I say this, and I have played however many hours of Jedi Survivor over the last few weeks. So, but that was fun.
Yeah, you're allowed to do things for yourself.
There's also the Zelda game coming out in less than a week, which
yes, I will admit, I have a Switch, so I could play the Zelda game, but I have to admit, I did not finish the previous Zelda game. Which I'm worried that people will come for me when I announce that, because I know that's like considered one of the best games ever, and I'd been a big fan of previous Zelda games. I really like Zelda. Is it Wind Waker? It's the one where the world has been flooded and you're pirates and there's a boat. For the GameCube. Which I think was kind of a departure from other Zeldas, but I really liked it. I don't know. I like the cel shaded visual style, which I think was also divisive among fans. But I have not finished Breath of the Wild, and I guess I should go back to that, because I know.
Well, you've got a week.
I have a week. I know Tears of the Kingdom is hotly anticipated by many nerds. So yeah.
Copies of it leaked already, so
wow.
My TikTok content was full of lots of people saying, hey, look at this cool thing from this game that isn't out yet.
I'm like,
oh, that's nice.
Jeez, people, give us a
And this is worse than the spoiling
yeah.
the TV show on the day.
At least, I mean, it's, I don't know, video games, I feel like part of it is the experience of playing it, so like it is slightly less spoilery to see something, but unless you're revealing a major plot point or something. But
yeah, and I think the previous one didn't have a huge amount of plot, but this one
Mhm.
seems to have slightly more. But yeah, I mean, a game like Jedi Survivor, there's definitely things in it that you could ruin by saying, "Oh yes, this thing happens."
Yeah, so and so
three quarters of
happens.
the way through.
Yeah,
Um,
surprise this,
I was looking up. I was trying to work out who the voice actor was who played one of the characters. So I fired up IMDb, and IMDb listed two people who I was not aware of, or two characters that I was not aware of as being in the game.
in the game,
and
and you're like, oh,
well, that's great. Thank
yep.
you. So I do not recommend that. Yeah. This is kind of like the quiet period before all the Apple stuff happens in about a month. So this is I'm just going to relax a bit.
That's good. You need that. Do you how do you feel about the potential of this headset that there's all the conjecture about? Is this something that you think you'll be buying, or
Well,
wait and see the information on it before you make a decision? Or
I have many VR headsets.
okay, so you're already in that space.
So I've used like all of those things. I've got an Oculus Quest, a PlayStation VR 1 and 2, and other things that I can't remember right now. But I do also have wonky eyes, and I am not sure that strapping screens to them
is a step in the right direction.
It is good. But I did actually okay with the PlayStation VR 2 when I played the Horizon game on that. The question is whether I could actually use this thing and develop stuff on it, like have it on my face for a significant
for extended periods of time.
Yeah. And there were rumors that were saying that this first one was going to cost $3,000, which
I think I saw that. That's a lot.
Somewhat excessive.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's not in the VR world space in any way, that's not a thing that super appeals to me. And I don't know. I mean, I also have not great eyesight. VR games just don't like. I guess just the idea of putting something on my head is still not a thing that appeals to me. And obviously, and again, it's like, well, I mean, it could, I can be wrong. It can appeal to lots of people and not be for me. And slash maybe Apple will devise one that's like, ergonomically superior to the existing ones and lighter and better and all that jazz. And that will be the big breakthrough that this world has been coming from. I don't know. I've heard people talk about like using headsets for work and being in, Horizon's workroom, and like that sounds like and I've heard people describe it positively in terms of what a transformative experience it is. But to me, it's like, no, I don't ever want that. I don't want to strap a headset on to go to work.
I mean, the thing with this is, from the sounds of it, it's not going to be game focused.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't have
that makes sense given that it's Apple.
Well, yes.
Whose record with games is I don't know what the terrible description is here, but not great.
But if the
Lego skeleton in my little Lego dungeon, as you do.
Clearly, that whoever the prisoner was kept there for a long time.
Yeah, not major incarceration issues there.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of ethics investigation into this monarchy.
Yeah. Well, hey, monarchies, they're
well,
not my idea.
Don't get me started on
monarchies. Not today of all days. Slash this weekend of all weekends.
No. But yeah, so I'm not sure what the story is, because if games is the one thing that does work, like that people have expressed an interest in doing in VR, AR settings, and if this thing isn't for games but it is for like Zoom calls, it doesn't seem like a product that I'm can really just I don't know what it's for,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm sure this is just the first one. But if it costs like a tenth of the price, I could see it being a thing. And it may be like Apple is going around telling everybody it's $3,000 so that when
So
they
that when they
announce
tell you
it's,
that it's $2,000, it's like an
you go,
amazing
oh, it's
transformation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cheap.
And they've done that game before, right? Wasn't the
Yeah, I mean the
iPad kind of
iPad.
the famous one where people were shocked at what it is because probably they had massaged that story a little bit to adjust the
Yeah,
expectations, you know,
because I
which
think
is
everybody
that's
was like,
and you know, I mean, I'm kind of cynical about that, but that's the world of marketing. So, you know, yeah.
yeah.
I don't
Um, I'm interested to see what it is.
Mhm.
I mean, like one rumor says that it will run like iPad apps in VR AR space, so
Mhm.
that, you know, I might not necessarily have to do any work on day one. Whether anyone wants a calculator in
VR, right?
VR is probably I mean, if you're doing your Teams meetings or your whatever,
James, people may
maybe.
not need a calculator, but people may need an about screen in VR. That's what you got to remember.
Well, I mean, my dice stuff,
Mhm.
I've got some of that working in AR at the moment, and presumably that code will run on this thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this thing is, and I don't really. I think it's possibly a thing of getting slightly older, but I'm caring less about.
That happens. I'm with you. Um,
Um,
yeah, I don't, you know, so I am in the instructional design world, helping people with the design of online courses in higher education. And the instructional design world conversation has just been dominated by chat GPT conversations for the last several months. I'm a little tired of the conversation. I think I was a little tired of the conversation like week one, which is again, maybe that's an age thing. And you know, I mean, it is definitely like it's a thing that's happening and it's a thing that's, you know, changing some things and we, you know, we got to figure out some stuff based on that. But yeah, I guess I'm just always a little I don't know if I'm skepticism might be the wrong word. Maybe it's just tired. The kind of sky is falling dynamic. I just I my like the world is changing now. Everything like this is it. You know, like that's just I don't have a lot of bandwidth for that anymore.
yeah,
So
no.
neither this is the end of everything as we know it, or uh this is a massive game changer, and you know the world is new now, everyone get on board. Both of those are just not for me.
I
So
mean,
you
there
know,
does seem to be a somewhat of an overlap between the people who were talking about crypto a year or two ago and the people who are
yep.
talking about AI now.
Yeah, and I
So
mean, I think everyone needs to remember that these are products and there are people trying to sell you on you know, the everything is this is the end of everything is buy into a certain you know, somebody makes money off that idea, you know.
yeah,
So, yeah.
uh, yeah, I am definitely uh skeptical about whether these things will be good for society.
Mhm.
But they are a thing that is
They are a
happening.
thing.
And
People will use them for things whether it is good or bad, whether people will use them for places they shouldn't. Um I guess maybe there are people who won't use them in places that would be beneficial.
it's
Yeah.
the using them as a source of fact seems to be the main
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
seems to be
yeah.
what they're being positioned as. So
Yeah. The parallel I am very heavily reminded as a I don't know, what am I, a middle-aged nerd, uh, is the early years of Wikipedia in the early 2000s, uh, where, you know, I feel like some people, you know, and I've was in higher ed then. I continue, you know, I've been in higher ed as all my jobs basically, and higher ed is always a very weird place in terms of how they approach stuff. In that there are technologies that are created in the higher education world, but it also tends to be a relatively, at least intellectually conservative place in terms of like we're going to do things the way we've always done it, and
Mm.
because that's just what we do, and why would you suggest otherwise? But there were people that were very dismissive of Wikipedia as like, well, it's just garbage, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with it, but it sure seems like the people we are educating are using it. There's a lot of potential for how people will use this. Maybe we should get on board with like what this means and how this will change how people interact with knowledge, and how do you use it in ways that are not bad, versus misusing it. um and yeah, I guess it was like, I'm not suggesting that like the world is changing, but like, this is a thing. You should figure it out. And I guess I see some parallels with ChatGPT there.
Yeah,
So
no, I think it's something you should definitely know about and
mhm.
be aware of. But I'm not going to be. Uh, I don't think that my job is going away anytime soon in terms of humans writing code.
Mhm.
But I think it will sort of. I think people will use it to write code, which is
Mhm.
will be interesting.
Yeah,
So
I
long.
mean, I think uh you know in the olden days, James, you might have spent 2 hours writing code and then 2 hours writing code. Now you'll spend 0 hours writing code and 20 hours debugging ChatGPT code.
Yes.
think of the time savings. Um,
Just so long as none of the like avionic systems on the planes that I am on are built using this stuff, then
you'll never know. Um,
well, no. Um, or I will know for a very brief
yeah.
moment of time.
Well, I think they don't want to cause a panic. Um, I am building what appears to be here. This is kind of cool. There's like, this castle seems very big on sliding doors and secret passageways. So there's a little cave here with a bow, an arrow, and a shield and a sword hooked in a little nook. And I think I'm building right now like a little sliding, rotating door for it, which is it's fun. I continue. This is it's a lovely build. I mean, just the level of detail on this castle is delightful. I just feel like they I don't know, everything is like so ornate and complicated in places where like it could have been, they could have made it boring, and instead they're like, no, let's go all out.
Somebody was given freedom to make the expensive big set that
Yes,
they've always wanted to make.
yes, you can feel the love in this, slash the you know lack of constraints. So
Feel the
have
expense.
have you built anything recently?
I do not think I have. The last thing I built, I think I had told you, was the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
I did order, there was a, because I of course fell for the May 4th Lego promotional stuff, and I ordered the it's a TIE interceptor and a Mandalorian ship in one
Oh yeah, I think I saw that.
box,
That's cool.
with complete with a dark saber. I think
Oh.
Bo-Katan and a dark saber, or maybe it's Din Djarin and a dark saber. But the first actual dark saber piece.
Mm.
Not that I bought an entire set for one sword, but
Sure, that would be madness.
that would be
Um,
madness. I'm keeping an eye on the time because I need to go in 8 minutes. So
okay.
you have 8 minutes to complete.
All right.
This
Listeners, I'm going to see what I can build in 8 more minutes. I'll probably hang out for a little while if James has to head out. I am certainly toward the end of this thing, building out the dungeon slash basement of my castle. And it's a lovely little build. Yeah, I don't think they are live streaming it, but there will be a game show, a comparable game show being recorded right after this, which I intentionally put mine before it instead of conflicting with it. So, and it does look like we've got, I think YouTube says 16 people watching. So thank you. I don't know if more people found us because of the recent transition to Discord that the Incomparable members made. I also posted in places you didn't have to be an Incomparable member to show up here, but that's one place that people find us.
Yeah, we are whatever the opposite of an exclusive.
Yeah, this is not
is.
exclusive.
This is yes, free for anybody, because I want to say the level of quality does not justify.
It's
Because
just it's our chill, hanging out, building Legos time, you know?
Yes. But yes, I am not on said game show, but I need to.
Yes,
there is
I know.
one recording
Somebody in your home is, so
who shall
spoilers
remain
for,
nameless.
yeah, for
Is
purposes of identity protection, we will not identify who that person is.
but yes, I need to transition this recording space into
a different one. Yeah.
All
right,
but
James, I'm gonna get through here in 8 minutes. It's gonna be great. I feel like that timing of that was perfect, because it was like, all right, last step. Here's a bunch of brown stuff. Put that down. So, James, are you current on Taskmaster?
I am current on Taskmaster. Okay. I stick by my ranking of contestants.
Okay.
I do like May Martin, and I hope that they win, and I think they will. They
seem to be. I feel like I always lose track of who is actually doing well in Taskmaster, but I think they're doing well. Yeah.
And Frankie Boyle, as we have established, my apparent school mate.
Yeah. So you're. Yeah.
I do like him too, but
I think I'm one episode behind. I think because whatever is aired super recently, I have not seen yet, but I continue to enjoy it. There was I usually find the stage tasks at the end kind of a little random and weird, but there was a recent one that was just kind of had a twist to it that was I thought delightful. And it's always amazing what they can kind of get drama out of with those versus what falls flat, and it's like it's wild to me. So
yeah, I think that is a format that they can just keep doing for the indefinite period of time, because they just need to get the right mix of people on.
Mm-hmm. All right, James, I've done it.
And you still didn't find a use for that.
I still have one little gray piece that I'm gonna hold on to, and at some point there'll be like a gaping hole, and I'll plug it in. But so today I built out this chunk of the lower level of the castle. I think literally I built out this part on the right, did not exist and now exists, and I built the back of this further out. So this is clearly kind of the dungeons, and it does the neat thing where it can either be displayed as a line or it'll close together. You can see the little cells, one currently occupied by a skeleton. I love this little part here. This will be, I think it just looks like a black tube right now, but I know from previous Lego building that will be a tree, and it's got a thing where there's both a little secret passage there and a sliding thing that could let somebody sneak into it goes into a dungeon cell there. So very cool, very ornate and fancy. Even just, it's like we could just have a gray wall, but we're going to throw in some bricks. We're going to throw in some little pieces where there's moss growing out here. This could be stairs, but it's treacherous stairs leading down to the water, so we're going to make them all slanty and angled. We're going to throw in a little brown frog because that's what we do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on top of this. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through, but it's going to be 3 or 4 Lego build sessions before this is done. So James, let me not make you late for transitioning the official Incomparable Glasgow recording space to the next configuration that it needs to be. Listeners, thank you for hanging out with us and watching. I will mention, if you feel like buying me a coffee, throwing a few bucks my way, you can go to givetonymoney.fun, and which will compel me to buy coffee. I would say and more Legos, but I am committed to not buying more Legos until this what lovely castle is complete. So yeah,
sometime in 2024.
Yeah, in this year. I'm gonna finish it this year, James. It's May, but there's still a lot of May to go. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us, and I see people have been posting in the chat reacting to our thoughts on Breath of the Wild. One person is building a USC snowspeeder while they're listening to us, which is always good. If you want to be building Legos while you're listening to us, I encourage but not required. So,
Yeah.
all right. As always, goodbye, nerds. You can find lots of places to catch Tony and James on the internet if you need more of us. Maybe we'll see you on the Incomparable Discord or on Twitter or on Mastodons or places like that.
I'm on Blue Sky now as well
Oh
because I'm
gosh,
fancy.
fancy. So yeah, goodbye, nerds.
Bye.
And now I casually roll over to where my computer is and actually stop the stream.